To everyone for joining us today. So I've got a really big webinar today. I'm covering a lot of content around how to use LinkedIn effectively. So I have signed in on the chat as well, so you might notice me there. However, Will is going to be monitoring the chat for me. So if you do have any questions, please do jump in and ask them. I do always consider it a gift to others, you know, to ask any questions. So if there's anything you're wondering about, anything at all, please do let us know.
Great. Can I just interrupt there, Karen, and just simply just thank you for coming. So everybody's aware, this is the 9th of our Open for Business webinars. So really pleased to have you, Karen. Karen's one of the top trainers in LinkedIn in Asia Pacific, so we're really lucky to have her. So just make sure you ask any questions you've got, and yeah, I'll be coming in and out. Make sure you put anything in the chat, anything in the Q&A, and yes, I'll hand back over to you. And yes, thank you everybody for coming.
Fantastic, thank you. Thanks so much, Will. So Will works for Ku-ring-gai Council, so he'll be jumping in as said and be helping just in monitoring any questions. Questions really are a gift to others. So please, if you have any questions, please do shout out. I will have specific spaces for questions, but we'll be monitoring that. Now, we've got a lot of content to get through, so I'm not going to ask you all to Google yourselves now, but please do, at some stage, make the time to just Google your name. LinkedIn ranks really, really, really highly, and I think that's something that's just so important to keep in mind. Now, when we think about the statistics on social media usage, you know, pre-COVID, people were looking at LinkedIn, or looking at social media, sorry, 35% of people are looking at social media 5 or more times a day. So that's massive. And I do think that given the whole lockdown that we've been in, the isolation and the challenge of not being able to meet our clients and our customers face to face, more and more people have moved to social media, with some people reporting that the increase has been up to 72%. So certainly, you know, it's something that is very important. And when we look at the population as well, the amount of profiles we've got, we're currently sitting at 11. I've read two different statistics, 11 and 11.2 million profiles in Australia. We've only got a population of 26 million. So it's certainly a really great place to play. Now, it's really important, of course, to always be where your customers are. So some of these are US statistics, but overall globally, the largest group of people is becoming that 35 to 54 age group. So they're currently only 30%, but that's the area that's growing the most. So when we look at people who do use LinkedIn, it tends to be a little bit more men than women, by about 54%, and tends to be, or is becoming, an older and certainly a more moneyed and more educated population. Now, a little bit about me. So I hope that this slide makes you laugh. So I started my business writing LinkedIn profiles and training people on using LinkedIn as an independent LinkedIn trainer. I don't work for LinkedIn, 11 years ago. So my background's recruitment, and I started using LinkedIn as a tool to headhunt people. I discovered pretty quickly when I was a recruiter, which I was for 14 years, that how we show up online makes a huge difference to whether you're selected for jobs. I also realized that you could reverse engineer this and not just look for people that you wanted to employ, but you could also look for potential clients and people that you wanted to do business with. So it planted a seed in my mind. And when I left recruitment 11 years ago to go on maternity leave, I started my business writing LinkedIn profiles from home. Now, my husband usually travels a lot, so it's just never around. I had one baby after another baby. I was stuck at home writing LinkedIn profiles, and I couldn't get out of the house. I'm not from Sydney originally. I'm actually from Perth, Western Australia, the friendly state, WA, and super friendly. And I didn't know anybody in Sydney. I knew one person. It's not quite true. I knew one person in Sydney. I had no network here. And so I didn't just start writing LinkedIn profiles. I also started marketing my business on LinkedIn, or while I was staying at home covered in baby vomit. Just grew my business massively, 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 just by reaching out and connecting with people on LinkedIn. So in terms of, can you do business here? Yes, you can. And the wonderful thing is it's a fantastic efficiency tool. You don't have to race all over town. You don't have to go to all of these different networking events. You can stay at home in your elasticated waisted trousers. Well, that's what I've been wearing a lot. Building business, just growing business. So these are some of the companies that I've been dealing with in the last 11 years. Telstra and Dicker Data on the top left-hand side as you look at the screen. I've been dealing with them now for 4 years. I've got 3 upcoming webinars with them. So these are just some of the clients. Now, I must point out, I don't have a web page. All of my business, my entire funnel, is through LinkedIn. So I'm going to show you today how you can use that too to grow massive business and attract clients to you, whether that's B2B or whether you're looking for independent clients. What is really crucial though is to have an idea of who your client avatar is. So these are the 3 sections that we're covering. We're covering improving your profile, building a meaningful network, and creating content. Now, I have got the word meaningful in there because to me, it's not about just getting lots of people. It's not about connecting with people all over the world. For me, the really important thing about LinkedIn is using it to grow the right tribe of people. So defining who it is that you want to do business with and searching for them on LinkedIn and building relationships that way. This is not a popularity contest. You know, that's probably for Instagram or Facebook or something. This is a B2B and a B2C platform. And people here are in business mindset. So it's not about popularity, it's about meaningful relationships. Now on that, I think it's so important, so crucial that you just pause for a minute and just think about what's your plans for LinkedIn. And by that, I mean, what's your goal? What's your objective? What do you want to get out of it? If popularity is your thing because you want to write a book and you want to have lots of people all over the world who can buy that book, then that's fine. I'm not saying that's the wrong thing, but just be crystal clear on what your goal is and who your ideal clients are. You know, what gender they might be, what cities they might live in, what job profession titles they might have, companies they might work for. Who do you most want to do business with? Be really crystal clear on that, because if you're not clear on that, then you can't go searching for that and you'll be connecting with the wrong people and you'll be wasting time. So be really clear on how you want to make business from LinkedIn and who you want to make business with. Now, a lot of people worry about updating their LinkedIn profile because in the past, every time you made a change to LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn would let your whole network know that you'd made that tiny change. And that paralyzed a lot of people because a lot of us didn't want our network to be constantly notified of changes that we've made. So you'll notice at the bottom of every single LinkedIn profile section that there is a swipe tab where you can notify your network. The default is typically that it's switched off, but you may have accidentally triggered your privacy settings or account settings so that this is actually on. So just go in at the bottom of every single section when you make a change, just scroll all the way to the bottom to this slide bar and just consciously decide, do you want to notify people of changes that you've made or not? Don't automatically think, I don't want to notify anybody of anything, because if you've just received a certification for something or you've just started a second new business, maybe a side hustle, then you want to let people know about that. So just do keep that section in mind. It's really easy to miss because it is grey and it's right at the very bottom of every single profile section. Now, improving a profile. This is what we're going to cover. This is going to take us through until about 10:45, because we're going to do a deep dive on this. around some quite sophisticated things around featured and adding media, modifying your URL, all of that sort of stuff. So, so we are going to spend quite a bit of time on this. After that, we've got part 2, which is connecting with people, searching. And that's going to go from about 10:40 to about 11:10. And then 11:10 to 11:30, we're going to cover content. And then we're going to have a really big Q&A for those who've got the time to stay on. Now, your photo. Please don't skip over this section, because a lot of people think they've got a really great photo and their photo is like this. And they're looking really grumpy and they're so far away you can't even see in their eyes. So a really great headshot photo is where you're really close to the camera. So that if I'm meeting you for a coffee because I want to spend lots of money on your business and we've never met before, I want to be able to just glance across the cafe and recognize your facial features. Now, eye contact's so important, and so many people go for that whole torso shot and you can't see in people's eyes. If I can't see in your eyes, I can't trust you. So just check that you haven't got a profile photo that's got your sunglasses on it, and make sure that you have got a bit of a smile. You want to look approachable. You don't have to be grinning. I mean, if you have got a great big grin, that's fantastic. Neither of these two people do. A smile's fine, but so is a slight smile. What you don't want to look is grumpy. You don't want to look like like somebody who wouldn't be very nice to do business with. What I really like about Paul Lyons and Kylie Glover's is that both of them have got their chin down, especially Paul. So chin down means that he's kind of leaning in to listen to you. And that head tilt that both of them have got shows empathy. So people who have a really high degree of empathy tend to have a wonky head. If they're very empathetic, it's really wonky. So you don't want to look really wonky, but you just want to have that slight head tilt if you're in a very people-orientated role. It's all about your audience. So there's not a hard and fast rule on you have to have a head tilt. If you're in a role that doesn't require a lot of people contact, or you really want to have a lot of authority, then you might go for a straight head. But just make sure that you do look approachable. That chin down's important, because when we put our chin up, if we're a woman and we put our chin up, it looks like we're looking down our nose at somebody. And as a man, if we put our chin up, it looks like we want to take you on. So chin down's quite important. Now, in terms of improving your photo, don't think that you need to rush to a professional photographer. They may take a much better photo, but you can always take one at home. You could take one at home, you know, in front of in the kitchen, you know, where you've got a fridge or something behind you. And using this application, which is remove.bg, please make a note of the website address. Using remove.bg, you can make your headshot look more professional by taking out the background. So you can see here that I've used Hassan's, and I can change the background, have a bit of a play with it. I could add a color that maybe matches my logo. You know, so I think that this is such a neat tool, remove.bg. And it means that anybody can have a photo and you don't have to wander around looking for a plain wall. You can just change it as you want. So certainly something, I think, to keep in mind. Now, your professional headline. This is one of the most important parts of your LinkedIn profile. Actually, I'd say it is the most important part of your LinkedIn profile. It sits underneath your name. If you haven't modified this on LinkedIn, if you've just set up your LinkedIn profile and just followed the prompts, the default is that this is your position title. But it doesn't have to be, and it should not be. This is where, you know, I don't want to do business with the director of such and such or founder of such and such. I want to do business with somebody who solves my problems. So it's important that you have something that does capture, it all comes back to that intention, back to that purpose, what it is you want to attract. Now, we must remember that this follows us everywhere. So on the right-hand side here, we've got Rebecca Jarvis and we've got Jane Isitz. professional headline has got a little red box around it. I put that red box around it just to make it stand out and just to show you that every single time you comment on something, this follows you around. So this can be a really great lead magnet if it's cleverly written to capture the attention of your ideal clients. So think about your ideal clients. What are their problems? Now, remember, we read left to right, and that on the smallest mobile screen, or if you're the third person to comment on the comment, you may only see 40 characters at the most of this, but you do have 120 characters in all. So this is my professional headline, but let me show you a couple of examples. So these are two recent clients of mine. We're actually having a play with James's. He's really happy with his, but I think I can make a better job. So we're still having a play with it. But you can see that James, we're instantly saying cybersecurity. Martin Richardson, he's a lawyer. He doesn't instantly start with lawyer though, because he specializes in recruitment agencies. And he feels that if he starts off with lawyer, people won't keep reading. So he wants to talk exactly to his target market. And we've done that within the first 40 characters. After that, that 40 to 60 characters, that's where you move from completely relevant to your audience to being interesting. You know, what's interesting about you, or what are more about the problems you solve? And then at the end, you can get quite intriguing, prosper in a digital world without costing the earth. So that's the bit that if you're the third person to comment on a post, you might not see those last few words. You'll notice here that we've used iconography as well. So James has got that little sort of stop sign sort of thing. Both of them have got arrows, quite like arrows, particularly for these gentlemen. And Martin's got a blue circle that actually matches the colours in his logos, and his logo is all about blue circles and pink triangles. So I've copied that across here. Now, these iconography, you can get these by searching for my name. Now, please note that my husband has spelt his name with the weirdest last spelling, So my name is Tisdell. So if you make a note of my name, you pop it in the search bar on LinkedIn. Don't forget to send me an invite to connect, but pop it into the search bar and scroll down to the featured section. The second one along has got symbols. So you can see these emojis here. So you can open that, save it to your favorites, and copy and paste across those icons just to give your LinkedIn profile a lot more color. It is important that you stand out, that you are remembered. So what you don't want to have is a bland profile. So these are just some of the things that we've covered so far. I really think that remove.bg is really handy, something that you might want to make a note of. Now, I said you don't want to have a bland profile. So this is the husband of a friend of mine who I've been telling him LinkedIn is so important. If you don't change your background banner, the area that sits behind your profile, the default is this blue section. So you can see it's got lots of white lines all over it, signifying apparently the algorithm. So this is the default, and it tells me nothing about you and nothing about your business. So it's really important that you do make sure that you change that. It's not going to impact if you are found in a search, but when somebody's looking at your profile, it will make it a lot more memorable. It will make your profile just stand out, and it will stick in people's minds. So what should you have as a background banner? As a background banner, I think you should have your company logo in here. So Sims has recently rechanged their name actually, so we're going to change that background logo. I have permission to show all of these. Nick and Blaze, both husband and wife actually, do both of their profiles. They are employees, so they don't, and their company hasn't provided them with a background banner. If you have a few employees, you can not just have a background banner for yourself, you can actually create one for your team as well. And you can offer it to all of your staff. And that means that each one of them is a brand advocate and is really growing that brand recognition. Every time somebody looks at their profile, they will see that logo and a representation of what you do. So Peter Edges, all of these have all been created by my team, but Peter Edges I particularly like because that earth signal, symbol, sorry, the leaf and the dots, you know, it really shows that it's all about protecting the world, and it's about responsible recycling and electronic waste, and you can really capture that there. And Amit's got that connect to confidence, which is something that's really important to his company. Now, your about section. I know we're moving at a really cracking speed, but I've got so much to give you today. so I hope that you're not all reeling. I do have a space here for questions in a second, so bear with me. I hope that you're thinking of some and/or asking Will in the chat as we're going through. So that about section, you might not have an about section on your LinkedIn profile, especially if you haven't used LinkedIn much. If you don't have an about section, just click on that blue box that says add profile section and then click on about. In some places in LinkedIn, it's called summary. It used to be called a summary, but they've now renamed it to an about section. If you then, so click on add profile section, add about. If you've filled out your LinkedIn profile and you've filled in the skills and you've added all of your experience, it will automatically populate with a pre-written about section that's got lots of random capitals in and frankly tells me not much about you. So I've got a formula that will help you to write this section. Just want to point out a couple while we're looking at my LinkedIn about section. I want to point out that we do have that see more button. So see how you can see more underneath it, isn't it? So it's really important that you have something that's interesting enough and long enough that people click see more. Because if lots of people are clicking see more, it will impact your relevancy ranking on LinkedIn, which means that when somebody searches for your profile, your capacity of being found is boosted. Other important things that I think I just wanted to point out about mine, I've actually got a question in the first line of mine. So something that it just encourages people to think a little bit more. And I've also put my contact details in here because as you can see, the contact information isn't easy to see. It sits right next to the number of plus connections that I've got. So not easy to find, and not everybody can see your your contact information section details unless you've changed them in privacy settings. So how do you write that tricky about section? You write that tricky about section by talking in the first person. So that's me, I, you. And you want to do that because you want to sound really approachable. A little bit like the photo, you know, in the olden days, we all had photos that were like this. And we all looked very grumpy. And that was fashionable. But trends in leadership have changed. I think they've changed a lot since the Royal Banking Commission, actually. I think that's changed things massively. But I suppose it all really goes back to Enron and the GFC. And that's when I noticed that more and more people were writing in the first person. And there was a big push for leadership to be transparent. And this word authentic started popping up everywhere. And everybody wanted to do business with businesses that were values-led, that felt genuine, where you could see who ran the company and maybe who owned it, and you just felt a lot more connected to people. And I think that since the Royal Banking Commission, that's even more the case. So what you don't want to do is talk in the third person. So Karen is da 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 da. If I talk about myself like I'm not myself, and you stop and have a look at my profile, you're not going to feel like I'm very accessible to you. And that feeling of accessibility to your clients and your customers is so, so crucially important. So is being genuine. And it's really hard to write something well if you're not genuinely interested in it. Now, a lot of the people, all of you, I believe, listening today are probably business owners. But if you're not and you're looking for a job, very similar principles apply. you've started in your industry and you've started doing what you do because you're really passionate and interested about it, and you want to show that, but you also want to show what it is that your customer's interested in. So you might be really interested in cats, for instance. It's got nothing to do with what your clients are interested in. So you can throw in there a bit of personality, but you really want to keep it focused on what you're interested in professionally and what your clients are interested in professionally. So what are the problems you solve and who do you solve it for? Now, I think it's so important that to have a call to action. So this all comes back to this idea that you don't get the work you don't ask for, right? I mean, how many of you have had meetings and, you know, you haven't got the business because you actually forgot to ask for it? Clients don't automatically know that they should be doing business with us. It's very easy to lapse into, or I've found it in business anyway, it's easy to lapse into almost becoming friends with your customers. And then they tell you that they've gone to another provider. So you want to always be asking for the business, but in a way that doesn't feel too salesy, although you can do in writing. But you want to always be putting it out there. So this is a friend of mine, Roberts. I wrote his profile when he wasn't looking for a job, actually. He's a friend of mine. And he subsequently got headhunted because of his LinkedIn profile and secured a new role at a 36.5% pay increase. And I do have his permission to say that. So just goes to show how important that call to action is. Now, this is in my experience section. Now, you might be wondering why I'm jumping straight from about section to experience section, but that's because I think the way you write both are very similar. For me, the experience section is a lot more of a cut and paste of some of the wording from your website. But your about section is a lot more conversational. But both of them should have a call to action, because you don't get the business you don't ask for. So in my experience section, this is my call to action. I'm not saying it's the best call to action. It just speaks in a language that I tend to use and that I think meets the needs of my clients. So it's in that sweet spot of what feels right to me and what I believe feels right to my clients. It's probably a little bit more informal than my clients might use, but I do want to feel conversational. So just reflect on something that really captures yours. And remember, contact details everywhere. You always want to flatten the path to the sale. You never want people to go, wow, this person looks really interesting. They can solve all my professional problems. I don't care what they cost. Oh, I can't figure out how to reach them, and I don't think I really want to connect with them. So I don't know, I'll have a look later. Boom, you've just lost that client. So you always want to be flattening that path. Now, strong words are so important. This is my friend Rob Urquhart's experience section. I've got his permission to use it. Too often I see in LinkedIn profiles, I see that it's been written like a resume. It says responsible for or ability to. And you know, my husband, who's downstairs at the moment, you might have heard him bang and crashing about a few seconds ago. He's often responsible for picking up the children from school on time. And I know he has an ability to unpack the dishwasher. I know he's able to do it. So my point with those cheeky statements is, and I hope that wasn't too cheeky, is that just because you're responsible for something or you have an ability to do something doesn't mean you've actually done it. So you really want to have really strong words in here. You really want to feel to your clients and your customers like a safe pair of hands. So you want really strong, really active and visual words. So drove, built, enhanced, collaborated, aligned, negotiated. So strong words in your about section and also in your experience section. It's really important. Now, this is somebody else's profile that I've also got permission to show. He was looking for a role. But you can see again, really strong words, you know, developed, led, identified, ensured, partnered, managed. And you can also see that we've used icons all through here. So as I think we did in Rob's, yes, we've also got little arrows there. So Again, those icons, you can find them by searching in the search bar for my name, Karen Tisdale, and then scroll down to the featured section, and I've got an article there that's got all of the icons that you could imagine, and you can save that into favorites, open LinkedIn in another tab and just copy and paste them across. And you can see how it means that I can have a whole paragraph of text here that's really dense. It really saves that scroll time, but it's still really impactful. Now, company logos. If you have not created a company page on LinkedIn, you don't have a logo. So you know that Boral's a company and it's been around for a while. My guess is that it didn't create a company page on LinkedIn until after 2012. So this gentleman put in Boral and then went and put in his new role. He had been promoted. So those blacked out squares are what his position title is, because he didn't ask his permission actually to use his profile. This is not my work. Otherwise it would have company logos in it. But when he went to retype it in, it picked up the logo. So you do need to create a company page in order to have a logo here. Now, creating a company page doesn't cost you anything. I have a company page and I don't even have, embarrassingly, I don't even have a website. I have a couple of landing pages, but I don't have a website, not a proper SEO one. So if you're listening to this and you're a website designer, you're very welcome to reach out. If you do have a company page, so all you need is to have a hosting address. You just need to have a website hosting address and you can create a company page. It doesn't cost you anything. The benefit of having a company page is that, one, it looks like you're really serious about your business. If you don't have a company page, then I don't know if actually you're one of the many who's been impacted by COVID and you're struggling and you've just pretended that you're running a business just as a stopgap until you find something else. A lot of people do that. So it's something to be very, very conscious of. Also, additionally, I've heard many, many, many times that 65% of click-throughs to websites are driven from social media, largely LinkedIn. I actually have been engaged by RPS, really huge engineering company, because they discovered that 80% of the click-throughs on their website were coming from LinkedIn. So that's why they wanted me to bring me in and do some LinkedIn training with all of their staff. So how do you create a company page? It's not very obvious. It is a little bit tedious, but you just need to follow the prompts. So this is a screenshot that I've actually combined. You go to the work section, so you can see on this screen here, you've got me and a little arrow, and then you go to work. Click on work, and then scroll all the way to the bottom. It's beneath the fold, so you will need to scroll down and then click on company page. Doesn't cost you anything, makes a massive, massive difference. When you create a company page, it will be my big hint that you create it and you add a second administrator. So don't have your secretary create it and she's the sole, or he is the sole administrator. If somebody else creates it for you because you just don't have time to create it, and they're an employee of your company, make sure that they add you as an administrator. Because if one of your staff creates it and then that staff gets disgruntled, wins lottery, suddenly disappears, you will find it really hard to get into that company page. So do keep that in mind. Okay, now I'd just like you to unmute yourself, Will. And can you tell me, do we have lots of questions for us around building a LinkedIn profile?
You've only had a couple of questions which you've actually answered as we've gone. So one question was about putting in icons, and I actually found the article on your profile and I sent that link to everybody. So the question was, how do you put in icons? And I think you actually subsequently referred to this article, which I've put in the chat box. So that's been dealt with. Another question was around, are LinkedIn profiles only for individuals, or can there be a company profile? That came in from Susie at just about 11 minutes past 10, but I think you've just gone over that in some detail. So I'm just going through. That's about it at the moment. One sec, I've got another one coming in. How do I change my background? Has just come in from Michelle.
Yep.
So if you can answer that one.
Yep.
And is it best to create posts from your personal page or company page? Is another one that's just come in. So creating
Okay, great.
posts from personal or company, and you can see that in the chat box there.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. All right. Now, that question. So the creating posts from your personal page or your company page, your personal page, and I'll show you why in a couple of minutes. Susie, should you have a company page or a personal page? Thank you so much for reading those out, Will. I know that I've logged in, I've got the chat as well, but it's just so much easier to get you to read it out for me. So thank you so much. Should you create posts from your personal page or your company page? So we'll touch on that when we get to posting. That is such a top question. My favorite is always to post from your personal page. Personal pages are so crucial. And then with your company page, you can post from it, but put it about a 4 to 6 month lag. So I would repurpose content. I wouldn't use exactly the same content, exactly the same week. I would have a 4 month lag, and I will touch on that later on this morning. I just want to get to that question about how do you upload your background. So if we just have a look at, so I'm live here on LinkedIn. So this is my profile. If I wanted to change or upload a background banner, click on here and then click on here. Okay, so that's how you upload a background banner. It is so important that you do have something that represents you professionally. If you don't have something that represents you professionally, then I don't know what it is you stand for. What you don't want to do is you don't want to have a picture of a beach, even if you really love beaches, because all that tells me is that you just want to be on holiday. So make sure you do have something that really does capture that. Now, that top question that so many of you are wondering, and I knew you'd be wondering because it's my most popular question, is can I just hide behind the company? Like, do I have to have an individual page? Please, 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 can I just hide behind my brand? I've spent ages on my company logo. I love my company name. I love my website. Can I just hide behind the company?
So a couple of questions have just come in. I'll do this before we move on. From Paul, one sec. Paul has asked about the size of pictures for the background banner. Diana's, what platform did Karen use to design her background?
Canva.
Canva. Yep.
Thank you so much. You can also go to graphic designers as well. There's heaps of graphic designers that will create a background banner for you as well.
And the last one, can you have multiple LinkedIn pages if you have a number of businesses but use the same email address?
Yes, you can. You can have multiple LinkedIn pages, but I would not do that. I really, really, really would not do that, because if people trust you with one business, then they will trust you with something else. So if I can show you an example of a profile that I've written, that I have permission to show. I have asked her permission because I've used her quite a lot. Sarah, here she is. Now, she has had a tinker with her LinkedIn profile because she's up for hoping to win a tender at the moment. So not all of this work is my own. But you can see here that she runs a business that's actually around, she hasn't got a company page, but it's around human design and design thinking and that sort of stuff. So this is what I wrote, and that covers that business there. Then she's got another business here that's more around coaching. It's one-on-one. It's not corporate training programs for design thinking. It's one-on-one coaching. Then she's got a business doing this. Then she also teaches at university, and she's also a photographer. So what this means is, because she's got, I don't think she's got another business, has she? No, she doesn't. Because she's got so many different fingers in different pies, and she's working at different places every day, and often even at 2 different places in one day, it means that if you come to her as a portrait photographer and all you want is a headshot photo or a family photo or something like that, and you start talking to her and you like who she is, and she's clearly intelligent and she's clearly articulate, and she starts talking about how she brings innovation into companies through design thinking, you start seeing that she is the solution to a lot of other problems that you've got in your business. So if you have multiple LinkedIn pages, you would have multiple audiences that are all walled, that are all gated, and they wouldn't know about the other parts of your business. We are all of us are hexagons, you know, we all have different sides to us. And I'll be touching on that when I get to posting about how I do always post about business, 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 business. But for me, it's every 9 posts are about business and then 1 post is personal. It's not always about cats. You know, it might be something that, you know, a sexist comment that I encountered over Christmas, something about the bushfires, a book that my daughters are reading at the moment. So something personal. So you can have 1 page and talk about different things. If I was Sarah and I was actively posting on LinkedIn, which she has been too busy, she tells me to do, but I will be hassling her about that, is for her, I would be running on a run of maybe posting for 4 weeks about photography, then sharing a couple of insights that are as a lecturer, talking about Transition Hub, you know, and just running on sort of 4 or 6 week cycles. So I hope that that answers that question. With the pixel sizes, what is the pixel sizes for the background? I do actually have an article on that. Whoever asked me a question, please do send me an email, send me a LinkedIn invite, and I will include that. I do have the background banner dimensions. It's really important to note though that LinkedIn is optimized for mobile. So while I do have the dimensions, it's important to make it bigger because LinkedIn will shrink it. And I think I've covered all those other questions. The rest will become apparent in this section. So please do keep asking any questions. Will and I would love your engagement. You know, it is a gift to others to ask questions. Just drop them in the chat, and when we break next for the question time, Will will kindly read them out to me. So Richard Branson, these are old statistics, poor Virgin. But when we look at these statistics, lots of people wanted to work for Virgin. And when you follow a company page and you apply for a job on LinkedIn, you're more likely, your application will be boosted because it can see that you're following that page. So you'll be prioritized. So despite lots of people knowing that and lots of people following company pages to increase their chance of getting a job with Virgin, more people follow Richard Branson than they do his company pages. People connect to people. You know, we are hardwired to want to build communication. Now, I created this a couple of weeks ago. I know I should have changed it because now, you know, we're no longer in lockdown and the world's changed and there's not a shortage of toilet paper, but I just hope that it'd make you all smile. So I hope you're smiling at home, or in your office. But I just wanted to emphasize Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I put in the toilet paper here, but connection is so, so, so important. We are hardwired to want to connect with people. I've mentioned cats twice already. I think we're actually more like dogs and cats. I think that people are hardwired to want to connect, to want to build community, to build relationships. It's how we've survived as a species, is collectively using our collective intelligence and through collaboration. It's why, you know, all of these riots and what's happening in America is just so desperately sad. It's why it upsets us, because connection is such a high value for everyone. So that's why we really need to be promoting who we are and have one LinkedIn profile that has all of the different businesses we have on it, because people trust us and then want to do business with us. So I mentioned a meaningful network. It is important not just to build a really great profile, but you also need to connect with people. You can't just build a really great profile and then just hope that all the customers will be using the search bar to find you. A couple of them may. So I do have a client of mine who's actually had 3 inquiries on 1 client, and she's done nothing other than have me build her LinkedIn profile. But it's really not enough to just, and that's 3 inquiries, I think, in about 4 months. So she could have like absolutely quadrupled that if she'd been out there posting content and if she'd been connecting with people. Connecting with people is so, so, so powerful. We'll talk about posting, but second to having a great profile, I would say connect with people, put the content creation last after you've connected to lots of people. And by lots of people, you really do want to have a great network. 500 or more will ensure that you're ranked higher in LinkedIn's relevancy ranking score when somebody searches for you. So it's great to have over 500 connections. You might think that you don't know 500 people, but my gosh, it is amazing how many people you know. When I first started on my LinkedIn journey 11 years ago, I knew that 500 was really important, and I literally you know, then at 37 years of age, was going at 36 years of age, I was going through my primary school address book and sending invites to connect to people. Now I have a weekly habit. Who have I met? Who have I spoken to? And sending them an invite to connect. So even if I haven't actually met the person, I'm constantly developing that network, because your network is your net worth, but it has to be meaningful. This is not a popularity contest. It's about connecting with people who either could be your clients or who will know somebody who will be your clients. That second bit is so important. This is what I mean by the second bit. So every time you look at somebody's LinkedIn profile, you will see a number beside their profile name, beside their name. If it says first, that's somebody you're already connected to. If it says second, this is somebody who knows somebody that you know. And that's the sweet spot. That second network is where a lot of our new clients should come from. Hopefully our first network is our existing clients, or clients who, or people who just haven't bought from us yet, but they will do sometime. That second network, those are all the people who potentially would love to do business with you, but they just don't know you exist yet. And so you can start leveraging who you know to get visibility across that, by commenting and by outwardly reaching people. That third network, that's a lot harder to sell to because you don't have anybody in common. So I just hope this concentric circles makes a lot more sense for you. Now, settings. How are we doing for time? Good, we're doing really well. So I hope that you've got those questions coming. So it's so important to be accessible, and LinkedIn does have a lot of different sections in the settings. So how I found this is if you go to your profile, so click on what it says me, so your profile, then click on settings and privacy, and then look at privacy. There's a few here that you want to make sure that you've activated. You want to make sure that everyone can see your last name. You know, if you've got a name like Paul, or a name like Karen, you know, it can be really hard to stand out. So you want to make sure that everybody can see your last name so that people can actively search for you. Profile viewing options. You want to make sure that you are open to everybody, not that you're hidden. If you're looking at somebody's profile, that's no longer considered stalkerish. You know, we have to remember that according to Salesforce, 83% of people look at somebody's profile before meeting with them. Salesforce, 83% of people, 83% of software services, people who are buying software services, look at somebody before they meet with them. So this is a massive research tool. And it's so important to keep in mind that we do need to keep it accessible. I've actually even secured clients by saying, hi, I noticed you looked at my profile, you know, and then I looked at yours and you looked at mine, you know, do you want to have a conversation? So just having that visibility really enables that. I would also make sure that when you click on your privacy settings, make sure that you go down to make sure that your emails are visible. So it'll say make all of your, what does it say? Something about making your email visible. So make sure that you have checked that so that everything is visible, as well as having contact details everywhere.
Sorry, Karen, to interrupt. I just wanted to, just before you move on, somebody was just, Glenn has just asked.
How do you get to visibility settings? Fantastic. Yeah, it wasn't very clear, was it? So let me show you.
Well, Glenn actually asked, when someone is flagged as a second or third contact, how do I work out how we're connected? And
Great question.
And then your other one was about the settings. So yeah, just that the second and third contact.
Yeah, thank you for flagging that second question. I didn't see that that other one about second or third. How do you work out how we're connected? That's a really great question. And it's a really great question because that second network are most receptive to hearing from you. So let's pretend I'm not connected to Sarah. Let's pretend that she's not my first network and she's actually my second network. I scroll, if it says second, I scroll down to her profile and I see in this section here, highlights, it shows that we have 153 connections in common, which means she and I know a lot of the same people. She's going to be my kind of person. I'm going to be her kind of person. And it also means that I can reach out to her and say, hi, Sarah, stumbled across your profile. I noticed that we have a city and 153 connections in common. I hope we can connect here. Name, title, problem you solve, contact details. So really, really, really top question, because it's so important to look at people's profile, look at who you've look at who you know in common. I would then add a third step of going down to their activity, which if she had any would be, or she does have activity, my apologies, would be here, clicking on see all, clicking on post. Let's see if she's posting. Oh, she liked something of mine. And just making sure that you like her posts and then sending them an invite to connect. It's really great to go into people's activity and like their activity and ideally comment on it so that they can, so it's kind of like a wave in the street, you know, you've just crossed their periphery vision and then you're sending them an invite. So then they're receiving two different touch points from you, and you're also demonstrating to them that you're a giver. Now, I'm not going to comment on this in your time. I'll come back to it and do that. But if I was wanting to comment on it and I didn't know what to say and all I wanted to write was great post, I would try and stop myself from writing great post, although that's okay to write. And I would quickly skim read this and I would capture the sentence that really speaks to me or that I think is the cleverest sentence in here. And I would put this in here and I'd say, you know, I love this, or, you know, speaks to me, or well said, or something like that. It is amazing how many times I will comment quoting people's words back to them and people go, oh, wow, that was so well said. You know, other people who know Sarah, she's going to recognize her own words, but other people are just going to see my comment and go, oh, what clever words. I wonder who she is, you know, and actually all I've done is just paraphrase people's words back to them. Now, that question on where are your privacy settings, go to, so this is your home here, you've got home here, but you've also got home here. This is the best home bar to use. This will actually kind of refresh your screen. So this is home and this is me. So when you click on me, you will get you. So you will get your profile and then go down to settings and privacy here. Now there's one in here, who can see your email address. You want to make sure that this is clicked on it so that everyone on LinkedIn can see it. The default is that only your first connections can receive it. Yes, you will receive some spam versus lots of clients. Yeah, I know what I'm leaning towards. What you don't want to do is you don't want to slide this bar across, because this bar here was installed when the GDPR hit the UK, and it just means privacy laws, and it just means that if you do slide that across, you are giving permission for bots to just download your email address, and you don't want to receive even more spam. So I would click this so that anyone on LinkedIn, I actually don't receive as much spam as I used to in the past, despite now making this fully visible, and I didn't used to have the option of making it fully visible before. So that's just something I think to keep in mind. I'm just going to go back to the home bar. So I hope that answers your question. Para below, should we make yes instead of no? I don't really understand your question there, sorry, Deanna. If you can just, yes instead of no.
And Karen, just while we're waiting for you, Deanna, to clarify, Susie has asked, is it okay to use Susie when my actual name is Susan in my on my profile?
Absolutely. Oh, I love that question. So I'm just going to show you a client of mine who was always called Barry. And he always calls me Kaz or Kaza. He's a website designer, actually. So this is Baz. We called him Baz. Now, if we just check out his profile here, you know, from way back when Flash was cool, and he said, oh, could I have a little emoji here? And then constantly curious, we put a little ghost, you know. He wanted to use these things. I wasn't too keen on these things here. I said, I'd be happy to have a chat. And he said, oh, can we change that to yarn? So, you know, it's really important to sound conversational. This is not a legal document. You do want to sound really conversational.
Okay, I think it might be, the question might have also been around, is it okay to use Susie when my actual name is Susan on my profile? So I'm not sure.
Susie, yes, you can use abbreviations. I hope that Baz has shown you. You know, Baz is.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Cool. Thank you.
So your URL. So I think it's really important to also modify your URL. So your URL is something, and it's so important as well because I'll show you a hack later for recommendations, how you can get more recommendations. So your URL, this is my new business card. And yeah, I'm not too keen on the design anyway, but you can see it's got a modified URL. So how you modify your URL is you go to see it clicks on edit public profile, and then you click on the pencil there, and then you remove any random numbers that it has after it. If you do have a name like Jane Smith, and there's lots of Jane Smiths out there, then you might want to put Jane Smith accountant or whatever. Now I'm just arrowing down here and I'm just showing you also all of the visibility sections. So you want to make sure that it is switched to public so that people can find you via Google. And you want to make sure that all of those slide bars are open. It is amazing to me how many people, actually I think it happened to me recently with Bernard Salt actually, where he was hiding his profile photo from everybody who wasn't his first connections, and he hadn't even realized. So, you know, it is amazing how many people don't realize that they're actually hiding it. So I'm just going to click play just for the first few seconds on that. I know I've got a lot to get through in the next 30 minutes, and then we'll do lots of questions, and I'd really love to see allow your connections to download email in their data export. Yes, but you don't want to allow people to download email. So you can see that to download your email address. So you can see this is where you can change your URL and remove all those ugly numbers that are the default, and just check your visibility settings. Now your skills section. Your skills section sit at the very bottom of your profile. A lot of people kind of ignore them, in which case it is automatically gives you some skills, but it's important to go in and make sure that you add new profile section, add your skills, and then sit there and choose which skills you want by clicking on the plus button. I'm showing you here as well the edit button. See that blue pencil? Once you've edited, you can then pin or unpin different items. And you can also click on the sidebars on the far right and you can change the order of those. It is worth having a play with these because this does impact your relevancy ranking if somebody is searching for your score, or searching for your skills. It's also really important to set yourself a calendar reminder every 3 months, have a look at your LinkedIn skills. Because quite often I see CEOs, you know, people who run pretty huge businesses, you know, and they've got under their skills Microsoft Word. So, you know, not a skill that you really want to be promoting to the world, you know, unless you're a secretary or something. So just make sure that you do modify it and you do update it. Now, we do have a lot to get through in the next 30 minutes, and then I'm staying on for questions. So I'm here until 12 o'clock, but I know that some of you may have to go at 11:30. So can you just tell us in the chat, please? I will come back to that question later below. Thank you so much, Dejana, about connections and email, but I'll answer that after 11:30 if that's okay. Can you just let us know in the chat for everybody, how many of you collect Google reviews? So, okay, looks like a few of you do. Got 5 raised hands. If you collect Google reviews, what you can do is you can ask people who've written you a Google review to also write you a recommendation. So these are all of my recommendations at the bottom of my profile. And it just means that you're just showing people that you do know what you're talking about. You know, I think I've got 77 recommendations now. So something like that. So it just means that, you know, just means that people can breathe that sigh of relief. Oh, wow. Okay. I think she's written more than a few LinkedIn profiles for people. So it's just that sort of safe pair of hands. Now, how you ask people to write you a recommendation, there's two ways you can do this. And you can click on more on somebody's profile and then request a recommendation. Now, I'll show you here something that I'm also going to show you again later around connecting with people, and that's the importance of using scripts. So here I'm going to Microsoft Word, and you can see I've cut and pasted something and then dropped it in. Oh, actually, I've got it on the same slide. I had it on a separate slide, but I'll put it here. See, underneath requesting recommendations, you've got /detail, /recommendation, /write, /. Could you please all just take out your phone, unless you're using your phone to watch this, and just take a photo of that? Because what you can do, what I've discovered very recently from a LinkedIn trainer in the UK, is that this is a hack for asking people for writing a recommendation. So you can click on more, request a recommendation, or every time you ask people to write a Google review, you can put in your URL. You know, I showed you how to modify your URL. So put that in, and then immediately after that address, put in /detail, /recommendation, /write. And that means all the person has to do is just click on the link. So just like clicking on a link to write Google recommendations, you can click on the link to then cut and paste your Google recommendation or whatever it's called into LinkedIn. So one piece of great feedback can go in two different directions. So just something that's really important to keep in mind. Now, media and featured. Now, featured, hopefully a lot of you have had a look at my profile, and you've noticed that I've got a featured section. These sections here that I'm pointing to right now, those are media. So this is where I, 2 years running, have been nominated as one of the top 10 independent LinkedIn experts across Asia Pacific. So, you know, that's quite a big kudos. So I've actually attached it to my profile. Now, how you add media, and I will go into this again after 11:30, but I've still got a lot to give you around creating content and around connecting with people, is you click on the link. So this is at the bottom of every single experience section. You can add a link. You can see I'm adding here a podcast that I was on. Once I've added it, please note here that you can edit it. Okay, so, you know, I think I've changed this so it says Karen Tisdall or something, I can't remember. But, you know, make sure that you do go in and you do edit it. Now, I'm just going to speed up this video a little bit. Let's get to the featured section. Okay, it's where I'm adding a second podcast. Okay, featured. Now you add a new profile section, featured, and see those sidebars there again, those little horizontal bars like you had in skills. That's where you can change the order. And again, I can add different links in here. If you've never been on stage, never been on a podcast, don't have any media to add, you can add your company website address. You can add landing pages. You could take a photo of a magazine article that you wrote years ago that isn't online. You know, so think of this as just where you can really flesh out your profile so that when clients and customers come to your profile, they're just like, phew, this person is a safe pair of hands. Now, I won't stop here for questions because we have had quite a few questions as we're going along. So let's talk about building a valuable network. So it's not enough to just build it. We do need to be adding people to your LinkedIn profile. These are really interesting statistics showing that people really do listen to their peers. You know, we buy what our friends are buying. You know, we are most influenced by people we are seeing all the time. We are typically people we see all the time or people we care about a lot, we're connected to on social media. Massive influence. 52% of buyers, LinkedIn, most influential channel. Very high trust here. So I want you to think of LinkedIn as a B2B directory of everybody that you could ever find. So I turned 47 in a few weeks' time, and I remember Rolodexes. I don't know if anybody here can remember Rolodexes. I guess Will might be a little bit too young maybe. But anyway, so I like to think of it as an online Rolodex, where literally you're flicking through, you're looking at a card, and then you stumble across other names. So it's like a business directory. So now we're going to cover how you search for people, search for companies, and how you can search by location. And do you remember I showed you those concentric circles of your first network, your second network, where you can connect with people. Now, this is a search for people. I don't know why I've got FMCG up there, but if you put anything, so I put FMCG, it seems, in the title, in the search bar at the top, and then click on people, and then click on all filters. You can narrow this by position title. You can narrow it by what profession they say they're in. So this is where it becomes so important for you to be very clear on the titles that your ideal clients hold, where they're located, the companies they might work for. Don't wait for them to come to you. You can go to them and you can sort it, as you can see on the top left-hand side, by second network. So this is how you can search for people. Please, please do have a play with this section, because it's really powerful and it doesn't cost anything to have these search filters. I believe that LinkedIn will increasingly move these search filters just onto its Sales Navigator platform. So it needs to make money somehow. It already has a lot of people using LinkedIn Premium, and I'll discuss later the difference between Premium and free. It's now trying to move people onto Sales Navigator, which has superior search functionality. So how you can search by company, I've actually searched here for a client that I've recently done 3 webinars for. But I just think it's a search that people don't even think about. Is I've searched for my client, Gatingi. I found their logo, but I ignored it and I clicked on more and company. And the reason why I did that is because then it gave me more Gatingi companies. I found the right one. I've gone into their 5,000 employees. And then I've clicked across. What do? I probably added Australia and New Zealand because that was where the webinars were. And then I clicked on all filters. It's the all filters that's so interesting. I'm really lucky to have a whole lot of work coming up with Telstra. So Telstra are huge. If you wanted to do business with Telstra, I'm lucky they approached me. But if I wanted to approach them, I would have had to gone into Telstra and gone, okay, who's the title of the person I want to do business with? And you can literally map this out. It'll take you some time, but it's completely worth it. You know, you could see there that I had position title. I can search for by who's in sales in Gatingi. And then once I found somebody, I right mouse click and I open it in a new tab. It's really important to right mouse click so you don't lose your search. You're not stuck going, how did I get here? How do I get back to where I was? And you can see I'm clicking connect. And then for efficiency, I am using scripts. So building touch points. This is not my diagram. This is something that I got off a marketing website, but I just think it's so important in business, how we make our clients feel, how we make our customers feel. And in order to make them feel something, to have a good experience with us and to want to do business with us and to want to be our brand advocates and tell all of their friends about us so that we get even more business. It's really important that we both meet our clients' needs, but also it's really important how we make them feel. It's that feeling. And in order to make them feel, we have to be connected to them and we have to communicate with them. So what I love about LinkedIn is that it's a one-to-many. You can stay at home, elasticated waists, Baby vomit if your hair, that was way long ago for me. And you can send people invites to connect, or you can send them voice messages. If you've got your phone handy, it would be really great if you could please take a photo of this, because this is just some ideas that I was just literally brain dumping around and going, how do you build your network? How do you build those touch points? You know, if like me, you're not from Sydney, you've got a new business here and you really need to get customers yesterday, how do you actually reach out and touch people? So with the Did You See This article messages, so this is an idea that I got from recruitment 20 odd years ago. I worked for somebody called Tracy Frawley, amazing woman, and she was very good with her customer service. She would, very low sales, and she would send in snail mail, probably 30 years ago then, she would send snail mail, she would send people articles that she had seen that she thought they'd be interested in. And then later she started emailing them to people. So you could find something on LinkedIn that you think, oh, that wasn't on LinkedIn, and just copy and paste it across in a LinkedIn message to people. So, but it's all about building those touch points in a way that makes your clients want to do business with you. So just a quick, short, tiny story here. When I was very young, growing up in Perth, I remember saying to my dad when I was very, very, very little, why have buses now got adverts on the side of them? My dad, who was a sales manager, told me that buses had just started to have advertising on the side of them because you needed to see something 3 times in order to want to buy it. We are now sitting at 27. People need to see something 27 times in order to want to buy it. That's a proven fact. That's where we've gone in my lifetime, from 3 to 27. Massive increase. Everybody's looking at their phones. This is, or their desktop. This is where your customers are, and it's really important to stand out. So one of the ways you can stand out is by personalizing an invite to connect. Not just sitting there and going connect, 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 but actually personalizing an invite. So this is somebody that I connected to who was attending another webinar of mine, corporate webinar of mine. And I sent her an invite to connect. And you can see again, I've used a script because it's all about efficiency. And you can see that all my scripts have contact details in them. So I just want to go back again to that and just show you how I clicked on the person, and then I click send invite, and then add note. It's the add note section. So here, so I have to bring up the person's profile, add note. So much easier on desktop. So these are some of the scripts that I use for my clients. These are just some of them. So the following an email inquiry. So somebody sent me an email, hi, I'd like to do business with you. And, you know, I've responded to their email, and then I've jumped straight into LinkedIn. So that even if my services don't suit you at this time. So to me, if a client says, no, I don't want to buy your services, it's never a no, it's just a not yet. You know, so it's all about building those relationships in a really gentle and genuine way, but by scripting, which maybe doesn't sound very genuine, but it's about efficiency, right? You know, we've only got so much time. So you do need to edit it. You notice here that I've got the name of the business or the description of the business. You know, if your business is called Crazy Cats and you're a website designer, I need to know that you're a website designer. So I need to constantly see your name and have Susan Napper. I know she's on this webinar. Hopefully she's still with us. Susan Napper, makeup artist. Susan Napper, makeup artist. It needs to be really synonymous for me. Glad to see you're still with us, Susan. Thank you. You know, now your second network, as I mentioned before, this is where all your potential clients are. So these are some scripts that you could use to reach out. You know, hi, I noticed we have a city and a few connections in common, as I talked through with Sarah. You know, I noticed we worked in similar industries. Think also about connecting to people that do business with your ideal clients. So Susan Napper, who's on this webinar with us today, she's a beauty artist, so she does makeup for people who are on stages and shows people how to do makeup and that sort of thing. Also does proms, I believe. So she might want to be partnering with hairdressers and the like. So who also services the customers you want to service? Have you connected to those? Because they can be your referral partners. You can refer business to them and they can refer business to you. Now, voice messaging, such a neat and underutilized function on LinkedIn. So this is where you can only use this on mobile. It won't work on desktop, and it'll only work with people you're connected to. So when you bring up a message, as I've done on the left-hand side where it says June 18, 2018, you can then click on that little microphone thing that so few people see. So instead of writing a message, you can click on the microphone. It'll bring up a blue button like it's got on the right. And you've got 1 minute, only 1 minute, to record a voicemail message. So that's really, really, really very helpful when you want to reach out to a client who maybe did business with you years ago, but you haven't heard from them for a long time. And you don't know how to say, hey, do you want to do business with me again? Because no matter what way you write that, it looks really salesy. Voice is so, so, so trusted. It's potentially the most trusted medium, maybe even over faces. Certainly in youth it is, because in youth, you know, we're so used to seeing things that are all doctored and photoshopped and stuff like that. But with voice, we trust our GPS. We trust Google Assistant. We trust Siri. So voices are really powerful, and you could leave a customer a message saying, you know, hi Fred, haven't been in touch for a while, just wondered how you went going with all of this COVID and everything's going on. Hope you're doing really well. You just popped into my mind and I just wondered how you are. Let me know if you ever want to catch up for a coffee sometime. You've only got 1 minute to leave a message, so it has to be short, and there's beauty in that. So in-person networking, can I just have a quick show in the chat, or raise hands actually, hands is really good. How many of you do in-person networking? Okay, quite a few of you do in-person networking. Oh, lots, okay, all right, good. So this is a really neat hack that you can do. If you've got your phone handy, do get it out. In the search bar, you can only do this on phone, because it would be really weird if you did it on laptop. On phone, you can click on those, so you've got those 3 little boxes and then you've got that X. Click on that. It will then bring up a barcode thing. It'll ask you to access your camera. It only asks you that the first time you do it. Only asks you to do that the first time. And what this means, it's a bit useless you discovering this while you're at home without anybody, but when we're all out networking face to face, you can click on this and then click on the scan barcode, and there's none of this, oh, I'm sorry, what did you say your name was again? And is that Susan with 1 N or 2 N's? You know, how do you spell your, you know, there's none of that sort of business. You can just say, oh, why don't we connect? So what I tend to do now, that my children are old enough to, you know, my husband's not traveling, if I do happen to leave the house and go to a networking event, if he's around, then it means that I can scan barcodes, I can turn up at an event, I can go scan, 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 and I can work the room so quickly, connect with lots of people. But then the next day, those people are going, wow, I really wanted to speak to Karen, and she just like came up, connected with me, and then just completely ignored me. Like, it's not a great feeling. So that's when I would go back the next day and leave them all voice messages. Hi, it was great to connect with you last night. Sorry I didn't stay for very long. You know, I'd only booked a babysitter for an hour, so I had to rush. But look, let me know if you're ever up for a coffee. It'd be really great to explore how we could do business together. You know, so using those 2 functions can be really, 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 really handy. I just want to emphasize this last one. You know, again, these are different activities that you can use to grow, just that follow up, follow up, follow up. It's not about stalking people. It's not about pitching people. It's just about building relationships. So taking what you normally do online, offline. Now, I did want you to ask questions here, but oh, somebody's just written a really nice note. Thank you. About questions. I do want to have your questions, but I'm also really concerned about having gone a few minutes over time. So I'm just going to, please do ask your questions in the chat and I will answer them at 11:30. So creating content. Oh, sorry, just going back there. You don't have to pay to play yet. So on Facebook, you have to pay to create content if you want it to go out to lots of people. On LinkedIn, you don't. You don't have to yet. Underline that word yet. Now, I mentioned earlier 9 to 1. So I post 9 posts about LinkedIn, about business, and then 1 personal post. I've actually recently moved probably to closer to about a 7 and a 1, just because COVID, bushfires, lots going on. But I think it's nice for your audience to know about you. How much you do that really depends on how conservative your audience is. I tend to write LinkedIn profiles for business owners and for very senior leaders and people who sit on boards. So my audience is very, very conservative. So honestly, I'm not posting about my cat. But when somebody at Macquarie Bank, who I really wanted to get in front of, wrote a book that I thought was really great for girls, I bought 5 of them and I took a photo and put it on LinkedIn. She reached out, connected with me. We've since had a couple of conversations. So, you know, it's about being strategic with your content. This is one of my favorite reads, Edelman Trust Barometer. Sounds boring, it's really interesting. It showed that last year, in 2019, our interest in news went up by 22 points. Last year. This was before unprecedented times. We've all become news junkies. So one of the best forms of content that you could create is news. How do you create content? How you create content, these are short form posts. These are 2 of my favorite people who posted on LinkedIn, Darius Forks and Richard Clayton. Darius uses this almost like a journal. He constantly puts out his ideas. He posts every day, often 2 or 3 times a day. You do not and should not be posting that much. If you're posting 3 times a day, your clients will be wondering, they'll be feeling sorry for you and thinking that you don't have any other clients. Just once or twice a week is fine. Myself, I post 2 or 3 times a week, and I'm a LinkedIn trainer. So once or twice a week, honestly, is okay. Your best days to post, think about when most of your audience is online. So for me, because most of my clients, all my clients are working and typically very busy, you know, slump day is really great. So Wednesdays or Thursdays are really great days to be posting. What Darius does is all of his posts are very short. So they don't trigger that see more. I wanted you to see that Richard Clayton, he's got that see more. He's also got language that's very conversational, a very different bunch. So this is where you are talking to people and it needs to feel like a conversation. Questions are really, really, really great because questions encourage thinking. They also encourage comments. So you ideally want to have a question or 2. I will often put 1 rhetoric question and 1 question that is a closed question that I do want an answer to. Do you agree? Yes or no? What do you think of this? Or, you know, something that's just quite a simple answer. So these are short form posts. Now by posts, I'm talking about what goes in the news feed. And 11:30, I will show you that. So short form posts, I just wanted to give you some really, really, really quick tips and show you one of my posts. So you can see here that I've used bold at the top. I've used that by, see the 3rd point down, lingojam.com, fancy text converter. It won't show on all mobiles. If somebody out there has got a really old mobile and they've refused to update it, every time Apple or Samsung keeps pinging them saying, would you like to update? They click no, no, no. Then they might just see a whole bunch of question marks instead of what you've put in bold. Myself, I'm willing to take that risk because most of my clients quite, you know, they update their phones. So for me, I'm happy to take that risk, but it is a risk and something you need to think about. You can see I've also used emojis in here as well, just from my featured article. And I've also got, what's your biggest tip to create content? I've also got a question mark in here. I've also used 3 hashtags, and I'll touch on that in a second. I've tagged somebody who had me speaking at a corporate event. And I've also tagged myself in here, with my theory being that people scroll down, and as they're scrolling down, if my post is really good, if it's good, then hopefully they're thinking about the post, not about the person who wrote it. So I do tag myself just as a way of just reminding you who wrote it. And again, I've just written LinkedIn webinars in here. Just reminding you, I do LinkedIn webinars. I use the hashtag LinkedIn profile writer all the time, but I don't use the hashtag LinkedIn webinars because some other webinar trainer does in the UK. So, so just reminding people all the time what I do. And again, I put my email address in here. So I do get emails, not a lot. I probably get a few a month where people have seen my posts. They don't know how to click on my profile, or they're new to LinkedIn and they're just not too sure, but they see my email address and they note it down. So just about flattening that path all the time. Now, documents, these are PDFs, PowerPoints, very powerful. And I believe that they do, every time you click on that little arrow on the right-hand side, it's much like a see more. A little alert goes back to LinkedIn. Somebody's opened this, it must be good. Counted as a hard click. LinkedIn thinks it's trending, we'll send it out to more people. These are videos. Both of these ones are videos, actually. And thumbnails. So I just wanted to show you on LinkedIn that you can actually create a little thumbnail for videos. I won't show you just because we're a little bit short on time, but when you do upload a video, do it really slowly, and you'll notice in the second part of it, it'll say edit your video, and you can actually take a snip of it so that you don't have a thumbnail of you with your eyes. Mine's always, my eyes are shut, my mouth's always open. So, you know, you can have a thumbnail that looks great. On your documents post, so those PDF documents or PowerPoints, or at the end of a video, I always put contact details, because to me, it's all about reminding people who you are, what you do, and being accessible. Articles, you write an article, make sure you put it into your featured section. How often should you write an article, you might be wondering? Probably every 3 to 6 months, depending on changes to your industry. So, you know, I don't think articles actually attract lots of people to you, but once they are on your LinkedIn profile, it shows them, much like a recommendation does, that you have depth of knowledge. So one every 3 to 6 months is fine. Just make sure that it's a really interesting deep dive, really shows your knowledge. What I love about posting on LinkedIn is that I can go into where it says how many views I've got, and I can see the data. So I don't work globally, so it's a little bit of a concern to me that I had 38 people in New York City read one of my articles, you know, and I don't want to do business in New York. I do want to do business here in Sydney. So, and I can see, this was an article, probably salespeople, so I do train a lot of salespeople, executive directors. I can see the sort of job titles. So I love that LinkedIn gives me the data and I can see whether my posts are hitting the mark or not. So check your data. Don't worry too much about the number of views, because it's not a popularity contest. You don't want everybody to see your post, just the right people to see your post. And just because they're not liking it doesn't mean that they haven't seen it. So 3 hashtags. Hashtags is how LinkedIn sorts its content. So your content is divided, is categorized, sorry. Your content is categorized by the hashtags you use. If you don't use any hashtags, it won't go as far, and LinkedIn will just decide how it thinks your post should be categorized. So the best way of using hashtags is to try and use a popular hashtag. If you do send me an invite to connect, no pressure, but if you do, I will reply with a summary of what I've covered today, and I will also send you Andy Foote's top 100 hashtags. So these are his hashtags, it's not my work. And he has, with somebody else, with Gal, he has painstakingly calculated the most popular hashtags. He hasn't done it since January, so these are, you know, it doesn't have COVID-19 up there, but you can see that the most popular one is India. Those numbers correlate to how many people are following those hashtags. So if you don't, if you do connect to me and I do send you these hashtags and you can't find one that is right for you, just put the hashtag, so just put that hashtag symbol and then type your word. It might be hashtag accounting, and just put it into the search bar and see how many people are following that. And then you want to have as many hashtags sorry, you want to have 3 hashtags, but you want to make sure that they're popular hashtags. You can weave them into the text of your posts if you're really good at writing, or do what I do and just bung them right at the very bottom. Now, once you have written, send your link to other people. I have Scotty's permission to show this. Scotty, every couple of months, sends me something that he's posted. Doesn't do it all the time, but occasionally he knows I've got a pretty sizable network here in Sydney. I've got about 9,000 people, and they are people I've spoken to, met, interacted with somehow. And so he will send me a, hey, could you please support this post, and he does it in a really conversational way. So there's no pressure, no obligation. So when you do write a post, think about sending it to a few people like me, or a few people that will support you, so that they can, time allowing, comment on it, like it, and hopefully comment on it. Now, once somebody has liked your post, we are finishing in about 1.5 minutes, and then I hope you've got lots of questions for me. Once you have written a post, if lots of people like and comment on your post, particularly if they're commenting, please acknowledge their comment. If somebody's taken the effort to give you attention, you really want to be rewarding that by liking their comment and ideally going back and commenting on their comment. So like it and comment on it. If somebody has liked your post, you can easily just hover over their name until it says message, click on message without even going into their profile. So it's just one click, it's not 2 or 3 clicks. So hover over their name, click on message, and you can just say, thanks for liking my post. Cut paste, thanks for liking my post, cut paste, thanks for liking my post, because that will reward that behavior, and then they'll be more likely to support your posts in future. Also makes them feel like they know you. So one of my last slides for today is it's really important when you do post on LinkedIn, before you post, go into the newsfeed and like at least 9 other posts. Ideally, comment on them. So these are posts in the newsfeed, not posts from companies, but posts from personal pages, because people respond to people. We're hardwired to want to connect. And I know that when I see a post, I like when I was looking at Sarah Norton's profile, without even thinking actually about the appropriateness of doing it in your time as opposed to in mine, I just liked her post. It's just a reaction for me because she supported me by being my client. And so I see she's posted, I just automatically like her post. So when somebody, if you can get out there and just start liking and commenting other people's posts, particularly your customers or people who are doing business with your customer, your ideal customers, they will see that and they will support you, and their customers will see that. So don't just post, don't just, what's that horrible expression, don't just turn up and throw up. You really want to be giving as well, and really do supporting others. Now, no pressure to connect with me. If you do, I'll give you some resources, including those the hashtag sheets. I'm really lucky to have a few busy weeks ahead, but if you did want to have a LinkedIn profile writing service, if you mention Ku-ring-gai, I can book you in for July with a discount. But as said, absolutely no pressure. Just putting that out there. It's only a Ku-ring-gai Council discount. Now, some of you may have to go, but I hope that lots of you have got questions for me.
Thank you so much, Karen. That was so much information. I'm really glad I recorded this.
Did I give you a headache?
My head's okay. I think I've maybe got a little grayer than I already was, but no, all good. There's a few questions come through, but before we get onto that, I just want to thank you. So much useful information. Please, everybody, I'll send the recording, so please go back and go through in your own time. There's obviously a lot of very, very useful information. So, Karen, there's a few questions come through. You can see them. So, if you just want to go on to the Q&A. So Connie and Yasmin's asked 2 questions. So maybe if you just go through those 3 questions, and then we'll go on to the chat box.
Okay, so the question, should you use the hashtags of LinkedIn recommended at the bottom of your posts? No, I would not, because LinkedIn will just pick out what words are popular in there, what words are in your post to use. I would just double check that they are the most popular hashtags. So always use hashtags. not that LinkedIn has picked, but that you think will appeal to your audience. So of the posts that you put out, what will appeal to your clients and what is the word that they would have in their newsfeed that they would be following. So I hope that that answers that. When I write an article, LinkedIn asks to share it with a network. Is there a way I can collectively let my network know about the article without sending individual notes? I find this time consuming. I'm completely with you. I find it very time consuming. It's really, really, really bad form to send a group message of, hi, I've just published an article, could you please comment on it or like it? And you've just sent that in a message to lots and lots of people. So in LinkedIn, you do have a capacity to have 50 people in one message. That's a lot of people, and people can get really resentful of you just putting them all in a group message. So you do have to send it individually, because you do want the individuals to feel that they are special. So so there is a lot of writing a script and, hi, I've just written an article, you know, something like Scotty wrote, hey, I've just written this, thought you might find it interesting, might be particularly relevant to you, thanks. Cut, paste, cut, paste, cut, paste, cut, paste. There's no way you can do that. You could drop it in an email on BCC if you've got a lot of people that are not active on LinkedIn, and it could click through to your LinkedIn profile. You could also drop it in as a URL in a newsletter. So if you're doing an EDM or you're doing email newsletters out to people, that's another thing that you could think about, is using it as a content library. So I hope that that answers those questions. So now, did I miss a question here, Will?
So there was on the question and answers. There was, so this was on the question and answer. So how do you react to invites to connect and you do not know the person or the company? That was Connie's. That was just before 11 o'clock. And then Yasmin has asked two questions. If you have a business, but I'm also open to getting, I have a business, but I'm also open to getting part-time work to supplement the business. Should I put my business logo in the header image? And the third one, if I do most of my posts on my personal profile rather than my company page, does it matter how much I post on the company page? So those are three questions in the question and answer box. So
okay, I hope you can help me by remembering all of those.
Yeah, so just if you go from the top.
All right, I'm just going to go back to the one question that I did ask. Somebody asked, what's the optimum length for a LinkedIn post? You don't have to have a photo with a LinkedIn post. You have 1,300 characters maximum. Please remember the importance of lots of white space in there. So you really want to have a line, lots of space, maybe 2 lines, lots of space, or, you know, a space. But it's 1,300, and I tend to use most of those characters, you know, because by having a post that's quite long, it takes people longer to read it, and LinkedIn counts your dwell time. So dwell time is the amount of time you spend dwelling on a post. And if lots of people are dwelling on it because they're reading it down, then it will be sent out to more people. So the question about personal page, and I'm looking for a job as well, I would have your company logo or something that describes what you do. So something that describes what you do in your background banner and your logo.
Yeah. In
your banner. I would say in your about section, you know, I really enjoy you could say something like, I miss the companionship of colleagues, and I'm looking for a part-time role while also working my business part-time. So I do believe that you could call that out, and I would have that line, something that's really simple, unapologetic, not something like, oh, you know, it's really quiet and I want some extra income, but just, you know, I miss the colleagues, I miss feeling a part of something that's bigger than just me. So I'm also looking for part-time work.
Keep it positive.
In your about section and also in your experience section. What were the other two questions?
The other two questions, I don't know if you can see the questions in the Q&A. Can you see them on the screen?
All right. Okay, let me bring them up.
So that was the second of the three. And the first, so you got 3 in there at the moment.
Three, okay. How do you react to invites to connect where you don't know the person or the company and the invite doesn't give you any information? That is a top question. I really need to video this because I would feel a bit uncomfortable going into my profile and showing you. You can. I just don't want to show you all of my pending invitations because it might breach some people's confidentiality. But you can actually go into your pending invites and then click on the right-hand side. You've got see all. And then you can click on message without accepting the person. So you haven't opened up their profile, you haven't right mouse clicked, you've just clicked on invites, see all on the right hand side, and then you've clicked on message, and you can say, thanks for your invite to connect. I'm not sure we've ever met, can ask why you'd like to be connected. Now remember, that most people just go connect. They might be a potential customer, or they might know somebody who's a potential customer. But if you can't figure out why, then you can ask them, you know, why would you like to connect? Or what I did with one person, Paul Lyons, actually, the guy whose photo I use as an example, he sent me an invite to connect. Now, he has written a couple of books, both of which I own, actually. And he used to run lots of very big recruitment agencies. So he actually was the CEO of Ambition Recruitment for many years. And I knew that, and I knew of him. And he sent me an invite to connect without personalizing it. And I messaged him back and said, I actually have a policy of only, this was many years ago, of only connecting with people that I know. And I wonder when would suit you for coffee. Thursday or Friday. We actually caught up for coffee, and he's since become a mentor, a friend of mine. So, so you can message back to people, but I would just always be a bit open-minded, but selective in who you connect with, and try not to be too aggressive. I hope that answers that. Personal page rather than company page. Does it matter how much I post on the company page? How much activity frequency post should I have on your company page? That's a great question, and it's one, you know, I actually don't have an answer for. I've completely abandoned my company page. I don't put out any posts from my company page at all, because I know that people are not interested in me as a company or me as a business. I write people's profiles and I do LinkedIn training because people trust me as an individual, not me as a brand, not me as a company. So I've pretty much abandoned my company page. But if you did want to get a big sense of scale, or you had a lot of employees and you wanted everybody to feel really proud of the company, and you wanted to expand the company brand footprint, then I would put out I probably put out 2 posts a week from your company page, or 1 or 2 posts a week from your company page. But just know that even though they've already got the see more, it's hard in there. And LinkedIn's doing everything it can to try and boost company pages. It's throwing so much money at company pages because it really wants to get marketing dollars. And it wants more marketers to be interested in LinkedIn as a company marketing tool. Company pages still don't do well, despite the millions that they've spent on it. So I would either abandon your company page or go hard at it, but do make sure that you are also building your personal profile. For me, I just don't have the sort of time to devote to my company page, knowing that it's pretty much, for me as a solopreneur, it's pouring money down the drain. But if I had lots of employees, I might feel quite differently about it.
Great. I think that's covered everything. Oh, there's a couple more new questions coming in on the Q&A.
Okay, I've got it up on my screen.
Great. So Barbara's got one question.
Getting people to link to the company page. Absolutely. So what you can do is once you have set up your company page, is send the company page URL to people and just ask them to follow your company page. So there did also used to have a button where you could actually actively ask people to follow your company page, but I'm not sure that you can do that anymore. So so Barbara, do you reckon you could drop me an email and I will send you a little video on how to do that? So if that's all right, because it would be quite a long time if I go around about it now. So if you can send me an email, which is just Karen@tisdalecareers, or one word, .com. I will then send you a little email that will answer that question about linking company pages.
I'll send everybody your contact details, Karen. So after this session, so with the video. So yeah. So moving to the
how can you
chat.
see followers? You can't. You can't. So just yet another reason why company pages aren't great. You know, you can see who's followed you as an individual, but you can't as a company page. And LinkedIn's run into quite a few roadblocks with this, with regard to the Privacy Act. So it's something that, from what I've heard, LinkedIn really wants to change, and it wants companies to be able to see who's following it. But it can't do so without putting a whole load of do you give permission to follow it and all that sort of stuff. So from a privacy point of view, it's just too heavy with legislation. You cannot see the followers.
Great. Moving to chat. The chat, there's a few extra comments in chat, I believe. So if you just want to bring those up. Can you create a LinkedIn contacts and migrate to your CRM sales funnel? That was from Paul.
Yes, you can. You can. I don't know how to do that though. The person who would be best to answer that is Gillian Bullock. So it's Gillian with a J and BULLOCK. So she's a LinkedIn trainer here in Sydney as well. And she does training on Sales Navigator and also on CRM, so linking CRM systems. So she would know the answer to that. So yes, you can do it, but I'm afraid I don't know how.
Another question from Dee. When you look at people's profile, can they see you have looked at it?
Yes, unless you change your privacy settings. But that's one of the privacy settings that I said you do want to show people that you've looked at their profile, that viewers of this profile also viewed. Who's viewing profile. So it is in your privacy settings, the ones that I touched on earlier, under settings and privacy. You do want to make sure that people can see that you've looked at their profile. It's a really great touch point. And I think, you know, if you're checking out your competitors, you maybe want to switch it off. But I think even then, you know, like this is open. You know, gone are the days of thinking about this as being spooky or sort of stalkerish. You know, nowadays everybody's Googling everybody. It's all about being time efficient. You don't want to waste time with the wrong people.
There's another question from Tanya. Should you use the hashtags LinkedIn recommend at the bottom of your posts?
Somebody else asked that.
Yes.
So no, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
What I would do is I'm just going to shut down the chat and I'm just going to try and escape out of my slides to try and get into LinkedIn. Okay, let me just... Okay, sorry, I'm having trouble escaping out of my slides. So you're stuck looking at the screen. But I would just put it in the search bar. So put the words that LinkedIn has suggested, but really you always want to be thinking about your audience. Don't think about what LinkedIn suggests you should use. Think about your audience. What do they want to see? And put that hashtag in the search bar and then see how many people are following that hashtag.
Great. Just going through some of the chat.
If I search people, then can they see it? Yes. I think by the Connie's question, if I search people, can they see it? Yes, they can see your profile if you've changed it so that everybody can see your profile, which is what I would recommend. You know, you do want it to see.
I think can one not get your personal connections to connect on your company page by inviting them to connect?
By inviting them to follow? Yes, you can. So let me just try and, whoops, click to exit. Okay. Oh, great. Sorry, the moment you unmuted yourself. All right, let me just move across to LinkedIn. So what was the question? Company pages and hashtags. So search hashtags in here. So you could search, you know, website designer or whatever and see how, so see it will come up with different suggestions. Don't just go for what it suggests, actually click on these and then see how many people are following it. So 7,000 are following it. That might sound like quite a big number, but this is globally. So I would actually put in all the different website ones and then make a note of it. Now, can you get people to follow your company page? We go down to company page. has said, I don't use my company page much. You used to be able to invite people to follow your company page, but I don't know if you can easily anymore. Invite connections. Oh, not following your page. There you go. Okay. You can type in here a whole load of names and ask them to follow your company page. But you can only invite them once. And once they decline it. So there you go. So it looks like I can still do this. I've had people tell me that they can't do this anymore, that they can't ask their connections to follow their company page, but perhaps that's because it does now say that you can only invite them once. So perhaps that's where the hang-up's been. So there you go. So once you have set up your company page, you can invite them to follow it. But remember, please, that Richard Branson slide and the Maslow's hierarchy, people connect with people. People want to deal with you.
Yeah, great. And a couple of additional questions have come in on the Q&A. Someone in the UK has the same name as me, but they have limited on the end of it. What do I do? That's from Michelle. Oh,
there's lots of Karen Tisdales as well. So you can't, you know, anybody, if I search under Karen Tisdale, oh, there you go. There's only one Karen Tisdale. There is actually another one here. So let's say I add in Jane Smith. You don't have to change your name. If you have a really common name like Jane Smith, you might want to put Jane A. Smith or Jane, you know, make up a middle name, you know. So there are 15,500 Jane Smiths on LinkedIn, and these people have not renamed themselves. But what you do want to do is when you modify your URL, which you do by clicking here, edit public profile and URL, then just put some different, you know, make up a middle initial, or put post nominals, or put what it is you do for a business, you know, so Jane Smith, accountant or something.
Yeah, okay. But I'm just trying to see if there's any more. How can I see?
Oh, the advantage of using premium. Oh my gosh, one
yes,
of the most important questions. Helen, thank you. So the difference between premium is such an important question. That was the first question I was going to go with while you were reading other questions out. I was concerned about time, my apologies. So so the difference between premium and non-premium is when you don't have premium, you can only see 5 out of every 10 people who look at your profile. So 5 out of every 10. When you do have premium, you can see 10 out of 10 people who've looked at your profile, unless they've decided, and very few people do this, to be in stalker mode. So they've decided not to show their profile visibility. So unless they've opted to keep that secret, you can see their details. So this is really, really, really important, because when we go down, when you're on your profile, so you're on me, scroll down, who's viewed your profile, you can see a graph of where your profile views are sitting. This to me is the most important statistic. If nobody's looking at my profile, I'm not going to have a funnel of clients. So to me, I don't care if I'm getting lots of views on a post or a very few amount of views on a post. It's all about getting the right views. But I do care how many people are looking at my profile, because if I'm not writing stuff that's interesting enough for people to click on my profile and then convert into clients, I'm wasting my time. So I'm wasting my money here. So for me, it's those profile views that are really important. So LinkedIn Premium gives you visibility of everybody who's looked at your profile. And this is really, really, really helpful, because when you know who's looked at your profile, you can then reach out to them and say, hi, I noticed you looked at my profile. Would you like to connect? When you have a weekly habit of looking at who's looked at your profile and reaching out and asking them if they'd like to connect, I guarantee most of them will say yes. And a lot of those will convert over time to clients, because people have looked at your profile. They've looked at your profile for a reason. So, so that's why LinkedIn Premium is so great. If you don't think that you're ever going to have the let's call it confidence, for want of a better word. If you don't think you're going to have the confidence to go out to, and I know that's not the right word, to go out to people who've looked at your profile and say, hi, I noticed you looked at my profile, would you like to connect here? If you're never going to do that, then I would not be paying for premium. So premium's only worth the money if you're going to be looking at who's looked at your profile and then sending them an invitation to connect. Now, what premium also does is it also gives you, I was just trying to think of the name of the company. So let's look at Telstra as an example. This only works for really big companies. So Telstra, more companies, so that way I get all the different Telstras. So when you have LinkedIn Premium, you get this, you get insights. You only get this if you've got premium, and it just gives you a bit of a breakdown in terms of the head count. But is this really worth the money that premium costs? Probably not. You can probably get more information on glassdoor.com. But it does, you know, it does give you some information.
Glenn also added, Karen, that premium also gives you access to the LinkedIn Learning, which he says is brilliant.
It is absolutely brilliant, and LinkedIn, I have got so many amazing courses there. You know, it's a rabbit hole. It's just stunning. You're well said, Glenn. Thank you. So LinkedIn Learning is used to be a website called Linda, and it's just here, and it's worth having a look at if you've got premium. It's where you can just attend all sorts of short courses. Now, LinkedIn are spending a lot of money in this Insights tab, I should probably point out. So soon we're going to see not just recent hires, but it's collecting information on all of people's colleagues and stuff like that. So we're going to start to see more org charts appearing in this section over time as LinkedIn's spending more money on it. So it's something else to think about. Good pick up then.
Couple of extra questions. Michelle has raised the issue of her name again, and it's about creating a business page. I'm suggesting, Michelle, that maybe you touch base with Karen later, just because I think that might be a more detailed question. So I'll leave that with you. So, and Yasmin, what's your opinion on including the years of a previous degree if it is a long time ago, i.e. graduated in 1992? Many people seem to be ageist.
If you're sorry, who was it who asked that question?
Yasmin asked this question.
Yasmin, okay, I thought it was a lady's name. There is a massive bias towards older women at the moment. Massive bias for women. Older women. I keep telling my husband I should dye my hair grey. So, although it's already getting there by itself. So as a woman, I would. As a man, I wouldn't. So there's terrible discrimination against older men. Men are always hired for their potential, and women are hired for being a proven. So potential, proven, that proven capability. So gender diversity targets, stuff like that. But anyway, this is not a conversation about gender, but just worth noting that there's not ageism against women unless you're in a technical field, in which case there may be. So where people may have a preconception that is incorrect, that younger people are more technical. So you don't have to put the years on there. I think that's completely up to you and whatever you feel most comfortable with.
Great, okay. And I'm just checking the chat again. From Tanya, should you have your logo on your personal page?
Should you have your logo as a background banner? I actually have fallen a little bit out of love with my logo, and I don't have my logo on my background banner. Okay. I do have what I do for a living. I also don't have an email address in here, which I have done at times. I've actually been lucky to put my email address in my professional headline, something that not everybody can do, as sometimes LinkedIn will block it. So there aren't any hard and fast rules in here. I think the most important thing for your background banner to remember is that it does visually represent what it is you do. You don't have to have a logo there. You don't have to have an email address there, although both are something that I'd recommend, but neither of which I've done. But just do have something that gives you a good visual on what it is you do. So I typically have images of me standing on a stage, but the moment COVID hit, I changed that image to suit the new world that we're in.
Great. And just to say, Karen, I've just gone through the chat, lots and lots of love for you. Lots and lots of people say what a wonderful presentation. So just before we wrap up, I just want a last call for questions for Karen. As I said, I will be sending her contact details around after the session with the video. So that's going to be this afternoon or first thing tomorrow morning, depending on how my computer copes with processing the video. So if you leave that
it's a huge video, yeah.
It is, so I'll get that sorted. So any final questions before we close the session? I've got a couple, just some thank yous. No, lots of thank yous. Thank you from David and Susie. So I think everybody is pretty happy, as am I, Karen. So I really, really appreciate what you've done today. So much great information.
Thank you, Will, for making it happen. We've been talking about this for ages. So thank you.
And thank you so much. Great presentation. We'll see everybody soon. Our next session is next week. It's going back to the building blocks of marketing. I will send you a link for that session. And yes, thank you very much for coming. Thanks, Karen, and we'll see you all very soon.
Thank you. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.